Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I'm Chamberlain Oso.
Well, I was just telling him that the weather is in. It's 26 degrees Celsius here in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. Good morning and welcome to your daily dose of sunshine, Sunrise Daily. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
And I thought, do people actually, pay that much detailed attention to the temperature if it's not rainy season or dry season? That's all some of you know, I guess. So you just go with the flow.
Well, some of us are conscious of the temperature. If you live in Abuja and maybe some parts of the north, you might be quite conscious of the temperature.
Yeah, I do remember once upon a time I was in the north and there was a sandstorm. And then that was when it dawned on me, oh, this is why some people wear that Barbaric. Just cover yourself up.
Yeah.
The sandstorm will be all over you. So it's good to move around and know what's going on wherever you are. But the Lord has been making the rounds lately in the news. Yes, you might have heard about the development with Labour Party, but they themselves are going to appeal as the party that lost, as you might have heard. But then, Kaduna State, we understand the governor has spoken up about it. They've gone there. A lot of things have happened ever since. But let's have you take a look at this report to give you some sort of background in case you might have missed some part of what has been going on, which we'll focus on in just a moment. But have a look at this.
A somber atmosphere at Kurminwali community in Kajuru local government area of Kaduna State as residents struggle to come to terms with the trauma left behind by last Sunday's abduction. Gunmen believed to be bandits stormed the community in the morning, whisking away over 100 residents during a church service.
We are in the church around 9 o'clock. Fulani people come around the church. After around the church, they enter the church. They ask us to lie down. They scatter the church, collect our handset, collect our money. After that, they send out from the church. Already they send out, go towards that church. Before you go there, they have removed the people of the other church. They are lying down.
There were initial conflicting reports between the security agencies and the locals over the incident. Governor Obasani visits the community following the confirmation of the incident. He is in the community to assess the situation firsthand and to commiserate with affected families. The governor meets with religious and community leaders, assuring them of the government's commitment to ensure the immediate rescue of those in captivity.
The DSS, the police, and the Office of National Security Advisor to ensure the quick return and recovery of our people who are abducted in this very important community.
The governor also makes a case for a military formation in the area as he promises to provide social infrastructure for the area, including a hospital and access roads.
I made it clear to the Minister of Defense that it is important, and I urge him as a Minister of the Defense and someone from Kaduna State who know the terrain very well, to ensure that we have military command here, base, because that's the only way we can be able to protect the people of Kurminwali.
For the people, the visit gives them hope and confidence.
You have given directive to your Commissioner of Works. We cannot say we are placing request, but to continue to thank you.
The Kaduna State government plans to increase security presence and surveillance in the area and neighboring communities as residents await the safe return of their loved ones.
There you go. Those abductions of several worshippers and denial by the police in Kaduna State raises fresh concerns, also about security and the growing calls for state police. This conversation is ongoing despite assurances from the governor, Obasani, and that all those who have been kidnapped will be rescued and reunited with their families. Well, joining us to examine the security dimensions of this matter is Dr. Charles Omole, who is a lawyer, security consultant, and author. From soldier to statesman, the legacy of Muhammad Buhari. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I know you may have heard all of that, and perhaps your security mindset would have kicked in. And I suspect along the line you might have said, oh dear, not again. So perhaps you should tell us, what was your impression of all of this?
Well, I mean, I did some digging yesterday about the kidnapping. The sequence of events is that the Kuminwali village where the kidnapping took place, there's no police station there or police post. It's one of those very, almost next to ungoverned spaces, so to speak. So there's no police presence there, as there are many places across the north and south where there are no police presence. So when the incident happened, there was no, in quote, security eyewitness. I think the culpability here in terms of the misinformation, Dauda Madaki, who is the local government chairman, said he went there and there was no evidence of any kidnapping. So when the Kaduna State Security Council, whatever, met, he assured everybody there that was the case. So everybody came out repeating his assurances. And I think until a couple of people maybe escaped, and then they came, and then, of course, the news was reversed. So really, I don't think the culpability here is with the police. I think it's more with because the local government chairman, if he gives assurances that he was there, he went to the village and nothing happened, I think on the face value, it's not unreasonable to accept his assurances to start with.
I refuse to hang this strictly on the neck of the local government chairman. That might be one explanation. Some people will say that, look, it doesn't, it's not enough. Because here we are, it's not some random resident who raised this alarm. You have a body, a structure, like the Christian Association of Nigeria, raising the alarm, saying this has happened in this community. They give numbers, and even in their own report, they actually did say that some people escaped. As a matter of fact, it was a day or two after we spoke with the CAN chairman in Kaduna State. He said that 170, the number we had initially was 166 people or thereabout. He gave a more accurate figure. He said 178 people were taken in all, and 6 people were returned, or 6 people escaped. That was what he told us. The next day we heard a more accurate figure. I think after they had done everything, they had now found out that no, the figure was slightly less. I think 176 people. 77 people, and 6 people escaped. So we have a more accurate. So when that controversy came up, it wasn't just the credibility of some random individual that was at stake. It was credibility of an organization, the Christian Association of Nigeria. And then to just say that we're going to rely on the report of the local government chairman, whom incidentally we were now told was in a meeting with the locals and had met with not just the locals now, but also the local CAN there, you know, trying to reassure them that they shouldn't worry, everything will be okay. He says he needs to excuse himself for a bit, drives off to Kaduna for a security governance meeting, says another story there entirely, and then I don't know whether he comes back to the community. So they are in shock as to how can you go and say that when you came to visit us and this is what you said. But to rely on the testimony of a local government chairman, one person versus an institution, that certainly says something. If that is really the situation, that should really say something about how we operate, doesn't it?
Yes, I mean, the fact is, I think what I said, you know, culpabilities with him is clearly if the police or any the security agencies are investigating to find out what's going on, the holding position was that of the local government chairman. And by the way, you can't just say random individual. He is the chief executive of that local government. You can't just take his word as being meaningless, so to speak. So if he came... No,
I didn't say that.
So clearly, if local government chairman...
I'm saying that CAN is not some random individual. That's what I'm saying.
That is true, but CAN, I mean, the people that spoke from CAN were not from the locals.
They were?
No, what I mean is that there's a CAN head of Khan in the north, from what I understand, that spoke.
Yes.
It's also state
Who said
Yes.
that, you know, they heard from the local government head of Khan in that locality?
Look, it's not. I'm not yet defending anybody. All I'm simply saying is the fact that, you know, would you believe the head of Khan that says local chairman of Khan told him something, or do you believe the local government chairman who stays in the community and says something different? So the issue here really is the fact that we have ungoverned spaces, pure and simple. If there were police presence, even where there's police station, at least there will be some level of official, you know, sort of confirmation. But there was none, and that's the challenge here. You know, it's good we're going to talk about state police or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, but the issue here is it's like Groundhog Day. You know, I can tell you right now, give it another month, there will be another kidnapping. It's a mess.
You know, the reason why, when you say it's not really about the police, a good thing you've written, and I mean, about institutional functions of how all of these things work. And this points to partly, in part, I mean, to how that functions.
Yes.
It gives us a window into how security institutions work. Now, yes, you say it's not about the police, but we also heard the police commissioner. He took to the mic, he spoke to people, and everybody heard him saying, nobody should give me this. So it then leaves us wondering, does that mean that that is how they function? If somebody comes through, whether it's local government chairman or not, and tells you no evidence, I thought police are supposed to also, don't take their word for it, let's do our own due diligence.
No, that's best practice. I agree. They're supposed to do their own due diligence and have a holding position pending new information. You know, that could be a communication issue. But one thing I know is that the police, even while the commissioner was speaking, they had started trying to find some evidence of what's going on down there.
No, they said, if anybody had anything said, nobody should tell me about it. If this, don't stop peddling false information. And the way that came across to the public was that no such thing happened. And
I agree. You know, there was some communication issues there. Maybe over-reliance on the local government chairman words, I think, is a problem there. But that, I think, doesn't change the fundamental issue we have as a nation, that, you know, now Christians in the north are easier to be kidnapped now. The reason is very, very obvious. It's a commercial enterprise. You know, if you go to such a remote place to kidnap people, you are not expecting them, those kidnapped, to pay you. It's government you're expecting to pay you. Now, if, you know, and government is kind of touchy on the issue of Christians being targeted. So clearly, so targeting Christians kind of strengthens the hand of the kidnapper to make government pay more readily. So that's what I'm saying. Christians are not up for grabs now, you know, unless something is done about this. And my concern, which is the issue here, is we negotiate, some monies are paid, they release. These same people are the, how do we know, for example, that it's not the same people repeating the crime all over the country? Because so we deal with a situation, you don't capture anybody, you don't kill anybody, you simply negotiate, and then I spend the money for a month, so I'm now low on cash. Okay, where do we go next? You know, so that's the security problem that I'm seeing here. How do we know that it's not the same people doing these things, and therefore telling us that this issue of negotiation, paying them, is not actually the way to go?
It raises very fundamental questions, and yeah, some people are also thinking in that, you know, thinking like that, because I think it then raises question about the capacity of our security agents.
Yes.
And security agencies, you know, what happens after negotiations have been done? I still remember on this program a long time ago, I'm talking about over a decade. Well, we're really old now, aren't we?
Everybody's older by the day. Yeah, well, unless you're dead,
over a decade ago on this program, when kidnappings used to happen, when the early days of kidnapping in Delta State, in Edo State, around the southeast, it will be that, you know, kidnappers, they will tell you pay the ransom, or they would even pay the ransom on your behalf. But they had a way of tracking these people. So days later or weeks later, you would hear that there was a follow-up and they caught those people. We rarely hear that these days. It would seem that either the police is overwhelmed, or either the system has been so corrupted that there are people who are involved, who are benefiting directly from such incidences. Because it's very hard to explain what has happened in Kwara, in Niger, with the students that were kidnapped and were in captivity for over a month. In Kebbi State, we saw the girls who were taken in, and now we're looking at Kaduna State. It raises fundamental questions, as you've rightly said, but then it also raises questions as to what exactly is discussed at these Security Council meetings. Because you would think that when you have a State Security Council meeting involving all the apparatus available to a governor in a state, that the kind of conversations that are happening there are not the type that brought out the sort of results or the sort of denials that we saw, which now later led to a recanting. You would think that by now we would have people who would say, let's be, since you were there, okay, but the Khan is saying this, let's double check. That there will be having a little more circumspection, so to speak, with the narrative that went out there, given where we currently are as a people. You know, the dicey situation internationally, and also the low level of trust that citizens currently have in government. I don't know if you've ever sat on the sidelines of a Security Council meeting of any state government, but what do you imagine happens there?
Well, I mean, the thing is, every state governor tend to have a closer relationship with one agency, security agency or the other. For example, a governor could be closer to the CP than to the DSS, or some governor could be closer to civil defense than, there are all kinds of reasons why that is the case. And they tend to rely more on that, part that they are, have a stronger relationship with. But I think the problem fundamentally is this, and I think this government is actually well placed to sort this problem out. You see, security is not something you reform in a sort of piecemeal fashion. It's like a net. If you touch one side, you are touching the whole side. So take the issue of, we're talking about police, for example. If you talk about, the governor's talking about state police, for example, they are talking about state Nigeria Police Force. But we know that if you go back to 1974 and you say state police, you are talking of Nigeria Police Force. If you talk about state police today, you are talking of Nigeria Police Force and 8 other agencies that have been carved out of police that do policing work. So the challenge we have here is we are not saying the same word, is what I'm saying. So state police in Nigeria, when we're talking about, is just the Nigeria Police Force. But there are several other agencies doing policing duties. So how about the reform of those? How about the reform of our military? Our military needs reforming. So what Nigeria actually needs, just like the president came and said no more subsidy, what we need is a wholesome security sector reform. Not just tinkering on the edges of, because I can spend time explaining to you why the formations of our military right now will not solve our problem. Our military formations need to be changed. So there's fundamental problem with the military structure, there's problem with the civil internal security structure, and then we say, it's state police we need. No. State police could be part of the solution, but you need a complete overhaul of our national security infrastructure, and no government so far is talking about that.
What does that overhaul entail?
Okay, for example, if we're looking at the military, let's start with the military. Currently, we have a tri-service military, Army, Navy, and Air Force. When this insecurity started, they started by the Army having an operation, say, in the Northeast, and then when they need air cover, they will call the Air Force, and then in Abuja, and then the chief of air staff will, or wherever it's, before the aircraft gets to the ground, the bad guys were gone. So that led to the Army started asking for Army aviation, that they want Army aviation, that they can't keep waiting for the Air Force. I remember when the General Atahiru was being, and his team was being screened by the National Assembly. I was in the room that day. When we went to the closed-door session, there was a lot of fight over this Army aviation because the Air Force was against it. But that's not the issue. But then we already gave it to them. They have Army aviation now. But the point is, To change that, they now said, okay, in every theater of command, the number 2 person must be Air Force personnel. So the number 1 is always the Army. So if we need Air Force cover, rather than call Abuja or whatever, we'll just tell that number 2 person who will activate. Again, that also still creates time lag. So I now asked them one day, I said, why don't we do what we do in the US, the tri-service structure, where if you say you are the head of Pacific Command, all the 3 services are under your control in that area. You have all your kit in that area. So you don't need to call anybody. So we have, say, Northeast Command, for example. So Abuja has nothing to do with that. So all the military, Army, Navy, Air Force that are in that command answer to only 1 person. So everything is nimble, everything is quick. But the problem that creates is we don't have enough kit to divide like that, you know. So which means more money needs to be provided for the military, but to have that, so that the entire unit can actually function without having to, they are constantly calling back. That's the military. If you come to internal security, that's even worse.
In fact, if I could pick up on that.
Yes.
You know, what some think is fundamentally wrong with that, in the first instance of giving the army aviation, is because ever since this Boko Haram or this insecurity started, there has been no, I don't know, maybe if you have, you might just tell us, you might have insight. What has fundamentally changed with our policing? Because in several other areas, this is an internal security problem.
Correct.
Not an not largely an external force against Nigeria's existence, when the army can then come in. What have we done to strengthen the Nigerian police and say, you know what, if it's internal security, police, you are the ones who should have this mobile arm, militant arm, military, whatever it is that is different from regular policing. So you have that, you can stand against this kind of forces. That is a policing function. But nothing's going on with that.
Look, I agree with you. I mean, last year, this is 2026, 2025, go and ask the police of their operational budget for last year, how much of it was released to them. You'll be shocked that sometimes nothing could have been released to them. And they're expected to function.
Operational budget of the police?
I'm not talking of salaries.
Wow.
I'm not talking of salaries. That's different. I'm talking of, yes, operational budget. Go and ask. So these are the challenges. They won't speak out because they are clearly, in uniform.
Why do you need army aviation?
They don't. Well, the thing is, army aviation will have a different
for this local insecurity, it should be policing. Strengthen the local policing structure, and then these challenges will be addressed.
It is true. The challenge is that the police we have right now is not being, let me put it this way. If we take Nigeria Police Force, we take civil defense, road safety, EFCC, ICPC, the security functions of customs, VIO, that's one of them I'm missing. If you put all of that together, if you put all the money government allocates to all those people and put it together, the allocation to Nigeria Police will almost triple. So when the government rightly saying we are spending money on security, they are not wrong. The problem is they are spreading the cost across too many silos.
Meaning that they're not doing the right things.
I agree. That is why I'm saying, if you say you give state police, I keep telling people, what will happen to civil defense? Would you have state civil defense? What will happen to road safety? For example, we have about 230,000 kilometers of roads in the country. The court cases have affirmed that road safety have powers only on federal roads. There are only 17% federal roads in the country. So we have a whole institution just to man 17% of our roads.
Waste of budgetary funds.
Thank you very much. So these are the things I'm saying. So we need a whole internal, and road safety was carved out of the police. So these are the challenges I'm saying that this government needs to say, okay, you know what? No more tinkering on the edges. Because if you have state police, what happened to road safety? What happened to civil defense? What happened to all the other federal agencies that are doing policing function? So a whole internal security, or minimum I expect this government to do, if they don't want to do security sector reform, which includes the military, the minimum I expect is internal security reform. Who are the people manning our internal security, estate? If you, I'm not talking about, if you read the book, one of the former chief of defense staff, Irabo, when I was doing the book, one of the interviews I had with him, I raised the issue. He was the first CDS to attend a police management team meeting, in Nigeria. And he said he attended that meeting. He said he told the IG then that, look, we want to withdraw military from all these civil roles. Yeah. He said the IG to beg them not to. Why? They don't have the manpower. It's in the book. That they don't have the manpower, that the military should please remain. So this is a challenge, This is a challenge. So really, we need wholesome internal security reform. That's what this government needs to do. Not just focus on Nigeria police force. In our policing space, Nigeria police force is now maybe about 50%. The other 50% is being done by several other agencies that are not being looked at.
Every time you speak with security agents, they always say that policing or security is the job of everybody. They need the cooperation of everybody. I'm only trying to put myself in the shoes of those people who suffered this, this abduction, who are victims of this particular attack in Kurminwali. And I imagine, them also listening to the media or listening to the news and hearing the state security agencies, saying that such a thing never happened. And I can only imagine how heartbroken they must have felt. Yesterday, we saw the governor visit that community to commiserate with them, especially after it came out that, this was contrary to the initial news that they had put forward. I'm wondering, how do you think, while some people commend the governor for reaching out in that manner and, promising things to the community and asking for a military base. And so I had a conversation with the CAN chairman for Northern Nigeria, Northern chairman of CAN, and he did say that they have no problems with the governor of Kaduna State. So far, so good. He has done very well in the area of security, and they have a robust relationship with him. He commended him graciously, but I know that somewhere at the back of those people's minds, there will be questions as to, can we really trust? Are we important enough? Because I heard the governor and what he said when he visited a community. He said such an important community as Kurminwali, and that he's asking for a base there, he's asking for roads, he's going to be doing school, for them, etc. In my mind, I was like, okay, they're so important, but they had none of these things. I'm sure he's trying to, let them know that they are also important in the scheme of things. Do you think first that visit is enough to assuage the feelings of those people and also reassure people who live in rural communities around Nigeria that they too count for something in this country, and that whenever it is we hear those kinds of stories in far-flung places? I was telling Chairman, I said, look, what happened in Kwara? We might have denied it if not that these people were live streaming. You were live streaming their service, and we saw these people come in and take them away. That thing might have been denied, or it would take forever for us to even get the news. But do you think that those people who live in such rural communities, would they feel assured enough that indeed they really do matter in the scheme of things?
I mean, in terms of the optics, clearly, the governor going is the right thing to do. He empathizes with the people and all that. But my concern is these things are foreseeable. And any actions that are foreseeable is difficult to kind of forgive governments if you allow them to happen. Like I told you, give it another month or two. We're going, if the pattern is to be followed, somebody will come, they'll negotiate with the people, they'll pay some money, they'll release them. Give it another month or two, might be Niger State next, who knows? So we're just going around in circles. And I'm saying the reassurance of one locality, you can't have military base in every village. So that's not really the solution. The solution here is simple. There was a problem. This is where data matters. There was a problem in, I think it was New Orleans, with the people reporting police brutality and all that. So research was done by the mayor. And they've now started recording data. They now found out that 90% of the complaint was against 5% of officers. So that gave them instant actionable data. Now, it's not all the officers that are bad. How do we now zero in on this 5%. That's the kind of thing we don't have here. What I'm saying is, it could be a situation where there are some 100 people in the country, and bad guys, doing all the kidnappings. But because they're never caught, they're never killed, they can just be moving from place to place. Yeah. And by the way, one thing that shows you that there is some form of organization around this is the moment the kidnapping start, you know, it went on a lull a bit, you know, during the elections and after the elections. The moment it started everywhere at the same time.
So there's some sort of coordination.
There is some form of coordination. There is definitely some form. You see that the same people are doing it, or different people, but they talk to each other.
So it's
easy to deal with.
It appears to be different strokes for different states. Katsina, they're talking about the 70 bandits or terrorists that they want to release in return for those who have been kidnapped. But just like the Reverend gentleman told us yesterday, he said in Kaduna State it's different. They don't have a problem with the governor. And we've had several other people tell us that the governor is actually achieving some milestones, some things he's done positively, unlike before when this kidnapping was rampant in the state. So for that kind of state, for that kind of governor, for instance, who perhaps wants to do a lot to ensure that these kind of things don't happen, what would your strategy or advice be to him? Yes, there might be ungoverned spaces, and perhaps with respect to all this talk about state police, it can't just be off-the-shelf kind of phraseology, just fit in. There has to be something different.
No, I agree. You see, the thing about internal security is there's a concept called displacement theory, which means that it doesn't matter how good you are as a state, you have borders with other states. So if other states are not doing their job, they can be exporting their problem to you. So Kaduna state government is not just going to be in isolation. You know, if Katsina, for example, reaches a deal with the bad guys, maybe start paying them, they can say, okay, we'll leave you alone. They just go to the next state. So this is the thing. So this cannot be solved on a state-by-state basis. That's what I'm saying. It has to be enough. You see, if this operation is happening, if you look at when it started, it was initially northeast. We focused our resources on northeast. Suddenly, when the heat was up in northeast, they moved northwest. When the heat was up northeast and northwest, they moved to the north central. So they were moving. So before you know, the whole nation is in flames. Yeah, so the solution really is to make the entire nation impossible for them to operate in. And for that to happen, you can't do it on a state-by-state or agency-by-agency basis. You need to look at the entire internal security infrastructure, and there are solutions. I just don't want to start saying some of these things on TV. There are solutions to reinvigorate our internal security structure that I can tell you within 6 months, you will think you're in a different country.
But will these politicians do it?
That is exactly my challenge. That's exactly my challenge.
But we see them hold all of these security meetings, you know. Not the state security. I'm talking about the conferences. I mean, there have been thousands of this, or maybe thousands an exaggeration. We saw the Senate, you know, holding the security.
Actually, in 2021, I actually held the National Security Summit on behalf of the House of Reps.
There was one. The Senate held one. The National Assembly held another in the NIA here.
We did make the recommendation. Yes. It was delivered to President Buhari. In fact, what people didn't know is that the next 2 years, I did a follow-up report, only to the Speaker. I did a follow-up report assessing the recommendation and where we were. 90% of the recommendations were not implemented at all.
So this is where we are. It's not like as if it's not there. The question is, what will it take for us to have the will to do what we need to do? Some people would have thought that, you know, the threat by President Donald Trump will eventually wake us up. And
we need the president, just like saying when he came and said no end of subsidy. We need that kind of approach from him. To say, you know what, enough of this nonsense.
But he said it several times.
I want internal security. No, the president can't be expert at everything. And that's why the quality of people around you matters. You know, I mean, within the space of all this confusion of internal security agencies with overlapping mandates, if I advise the president to set up Forest Guard, for example. So as though we don't have enough problem, we are setting up another one. You know, so the people advising the president are not people who I think are subject matter expert in this. Establishing Forest Guard is not the solution. You know, more so, I mean, 90% of our forests in the country belong to the state based on the Land Use Act.
Yeah.
It's a state matter. So what is federal government setting forest guard for? Anyway,
so wait, if a state challenges that, they could win.
Well, they won't.
But you just said...
yeah, I know, but they won't because, I mean, it's like every little helps. I mean, if there's some people doing it, but by law, federal government has a very small portion of our forests. 90% plus belong to the state.
Because at the moment, they just seem to be giving the military that and this all for internal security. You're just weakening their mindset. Oh, focus on internal security rather than focus on external aggression and get yourself stronger. I agree. The police that will ought to strengthen to ensure they improve their relationship with the people is different. It's only when you see all the police.
They need more funding. And when I mean more funding, I mean proper funding. Even the allocated fund that is not sufficient, they don't get it. That's my problem. They don't get it. But they can't complain because, of course, by virtue of their rules. But they are struggling financially. We need more money for our police. Mr. President, please give them more money. Or at least give them the ones that have been allocated to them. Let it be paid.
It just appears as though... Well, we have to be optimistic, even though it's not a strategy. But at the same time, we'll keep highlighting on these things and ensure that results are there. Thank you for coming on, Dr. Charles Omole.
Thank you.
We're back in a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back to Sunrise. As you've seen, Lalo Akonde joins us. Good morning and thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Good to see you guys.
When we heard all of those persons in Kaduna behind the camera speaking, and then it just came across, like, wait a minute, they just had their Security Council meeting. So that's inside sources of what they had done there coming out in the open. So is that what happens inside all these meetings? Because, for instance, at the federal level, they also hold Security Council meetings.
Right.
So is that a typology of what happens up there as well?
You mean referring specifically to the
quality?
Previous,
this Kaduna incident and then the denials. Because one suspects at the federal level, for instance, or maybe even at the local level, if somebody had come up and given a contrary opinion, saying, no, wait a minute, we can't run with this like that, we don't have accused the person of saying, you're against our party, you're against this government.
I see. Well, what my experience has taught me is that everything rises and falls on whoever is calling the shots. In the state, is the governor. In the federal government, is the president. And I haven't seen, including when I was in the villa, I haven't seen the kind of courageous commitment to resolving this issue in a fundamental way. What I have seen, and that is still happening, is that people are just kicking the can down the road. It's like, what is the least resistance, that I need to do to just get this thing? I haven't seen, and that's why, we keep going in circles. We know what is going to happen next. It's going to go up today, down tomorrow, up today, down tomorrow.
I'm going to read this is the president's 2026 budget speech. Budget of consolidation, renewed resilience, and shared prosperity. And they usually do the speech in points. So I'm going to be reading point 27. So those who like to read.
Paragraph 27.
Yes, paragraph 27. 27, yes. It says that administration is resetting the national security architecture and establishing a new national counterterrorism doctrine. A holistic redesign anchored on unified command, intelligence gathering, community stability, and counterinsurgency. This new doctrine will fundamentally change how we confront terrorism and other violent crimes. Paragraph 28 says, under this new architecture, any armed group or gun-wielding non-state actors operating outside state authority will be regarded as terrorists. Bandits, militias, armed gangs, armed robbers, violent cults, forest-based armed groups, and foreign-linked mercenaries will all be targeted. We will go after all those who perpetrate violence for political or sectarian ends, etc., etc. But I think the part I really want to underline is resetting the national security architecture and establishing a new national counter-terrorism doctrine. It's just grammar.
Well, you know, you have to give some credit to a few things that has happened. You know, it's just not significant enough to deal with the problem. And that it goes back to what I'm saying. Look at it, for instance, when the president wanted to put in the tax reforms. Did you see how bullish he was? He was very bullish about it. You know, the National Economic Council said, no, please don't do it, withdraw the bills. That was a powerful resistance. You know, I mean, I sat through NEC meeting for 8 years. There was never a time the NEC would come out to antagonize the president, never. But on this occasion, the NEC came out and said, look, Mr. President, withdraw those bills. But the guy was determined, and he said, no, those bills are going forward. That is the kind of attitude that he needs to bring to security. Where are we on state police? Where are we? We're still talking about this. The president is not bullish about it. And that's why I said that, look, I haven't seen that consistent determination that we're going to knock this thing off. I'm sure that he desires, you know, I have no doubt about that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu desires to be the one to solve this problem, but it goes beyond just desire. Like he has shown us, President Tinubu has taught us that, look, when President wants something done, when he really wants it done, it gets done.
So the thing is this, I mean, I know you all must have seen it if when I mentioned you remember. You know, maybe part of why these issues are not really addressed is because, for instance, these forthcoming elections, there will be political thugs. They have their thugs who they use for election to coerce the people. When arrests were made in different states, they never prosecute these chaps, these so-called thugs. These guys are armed, so they don't arrest them. Even if they arrest them, they release them before you know what's going on. Quietly, they are back in the system. So when they tell you, I want to, all those big grammar they're speaking, that, oh, restructure this, restructure that. When it has to do with their own people, this won't fly. After all, former President Buhari, you know, while the last government, he said several times, anybody holding AK-47, you must deal and arrest them. We never saw nothing like that happen.
Well, you know, so it's a very sad commentary, you know, which is where we have to shift the commentary to what the people need to do, how we have to organize ourselves, you know, what we should demand during electioneering campaign, how the narrative should be changing, which is not an easy task. But I think we have to find ways and means to change the narrative, to change the nature of electioneering campaign. As these problems are getting worse, as a people, we have to begin to call our leaders, hold them to responsibility, responsible, and let them know that we will remind them of these things.
Yeah, the question is how. For me, as a journalist, I've been wondering, how do we continue to make this front and center? Because the truth is, without security of lives and property, you can't really do much, can you?
Yeah, you know, there are a lot of Nigerians who are still sitting on their arms on the fate of this country. A lot. You know, and those are the voices that we need to bring to change the narrative. Our leaders outside of politics, whether it's in the churches, in the mosques, in the academia, leaders of thought, wherever it is, we have to begin to speak on these issues, these critical issues, in a way that our political class will know that the narrative is changing. The way I see a lot of our elites is that, you know what, don't rock the boat. Maybe it's going to be my turn. You know, maybe one day I'm going to be, you know, so don't cause any trouble. Just try to be. And that itself is self-serving to the extent that it threatens the very existence of our country and as a people. Because everybody is just doing and saying, well, I'm not going to say anything. You know, maybe someday somebody's going to call me. People don't want to risk the kind of things that has to be said. Let me tell you. There are people in this country, and I don't want to mention people's names so that it doesn't seem as if, you know, you are going after them. There are people who, if they start to talk, you know, if they start to talk and they talk consistently, the political elites will get these signals. But everybody is just being careful. Well, don't let them say that I'm the one that I'm trying to cause trouble for this man. You know, maybe it's just another 3 years, he'll be gone. 8 years, let me just, you know, that's the problem that we have. And so the political space is still left to people that are at the end of the day, really, without being trying to disrespect them, people who are inconsequential. We need voices of the elites who are not in politics to pick on this issue and pick on it consistently. That's why we talk about consensus. It's not happening. When we are dealing with military rule, you remember, especially against Abacha, we had a group that was called the Concerned Professionals. And it was clear what everybody was saying. And we had different kinds of groups. Everybody was saying, we need to end military rule. And when it got to the point that the military could no longer resist, they left. That's the kind of thing that we have to do to send a message to our politicians, especially on this issue of security, that how can we have a government and we are having to deal with this insecurity since 2009 up to now. The same thing essentially.
It's really very worrisome, in spite of it, politics is still at the front burner. Politicians will be politicians. Yesterday we saw the APC, as a matter of fact, I chuckled a bit when I heard it, the chairman of the APC telling, I can't remember what meeting was really being held, but it was the APC, and it was talking about, he said, we should forget the word technocrats. There's no such word. The moment you are appointed, it's a political appointment, you are a politician. Just letting you know, Chamberlain, just in case that happens.
That's their own impression. I will tell me what I am. You can say anything, that's your opinion.
I'm just saying
tell me what
that was what he said, and that's what he told the people, at his gathering yesterday. But while that was happening, the courts were delivering verdicts on the status of the Labour Party, saying that the Nenadi Usman faction was the legal and the one that INEC needs to deal with. And the Abure faction, anyway, their tenure ought to have elapsed by now, or has elapsed, so to speak. But Abure faction, they are not letting up. They say they're going to appeal that particular judgment, especially because the Supreme Court says that, courts have no business in talking about or electing or, appointing who the leader of their party ought to be, or the leader of a political party ought to be. I was just a little curious because at the beginning of this year, we also saw Ahmed Dati, visit the office of the Labour Party, the one led by Abure, and there were speculations as to whether or not he was going to run for presidency. I think he came out later to say, no, that's not what he said. But what we thought we heard was that he wanted to run for president. And we were saying, oh, but Obi now has gone to ADC, and he's there, and I don't know how.
Is he a placeholder?
Je ne sais pas, And even if he was going to be a placeholder, he will be placeholding with another Usman one, because that was the one who be recognized before he left the Labour Party. So I'm just wondering, as somebody who's on the outside looking on the inside, how are you reading this political maneuverings ahead of the 2027 elections, and how do you think? Well, let's deal with that first. I shouldn't do a double barrel.
Yeah. So I still hold that hope that the Labour Party can get itself sorted out, because when you look at the promise that they delivered in 2023, it was a powerful message. Nigerians wanted something new, and for whatever it was, Peter Obi in the Labour Party represented that desire, that craving for something new. And you saw how massively, even with all the numbers and up and down allegations, they still had, I think, about 5 million votes.
Within a short time.
Within a very short time, you had people who held elections who never campaigned, had no posters. You had people who were riding Keke Napep, running and winning elections because the people just felt, look, let's have a new thing. Now, that was what the Labour Party was. It breaks the heart that people like Abure, don't seem to understand that this thing goes beyond them. And I'm glad that Dati Ahmed is sticking with the party. I wish and hope that he has the leverage and the clout to bring everybody back together. That would be the ideal thing, so that we have at least, okay, that's another party right there that you can really build. People have already known it, but so far so good. It's not looking good at all. So now the court said it's Nenadi Ahmed, which most people, reasonable people, think is the real one. But then you have Dati Ahmed backing Abure. I hope that Dati Ahmed can use his clout and the respect that he has to bring everybody together, especially with this court case. There's still an opportunity for them to come together.
It looks like that may not happen until this case is over and done with in the courts. Now, if they say they're going to appeal, maybe they get at the end of the Supreme Court decision, maybe, just maybe.
Yeah.
And besides, who's to say that even the Nanadi faction group will not go to ADC?
Who's to say that? I like that. That's a very, who's to say?
A lot of people thought that was what was going to follow, especially after, Mr. Peter Obi defected to the ADC.
Yeah. Well, I think that the Labour Party has the potential, and I'm going to want to stick with that. Labour Party has the potential to really be a strong party, and they are losing the choice. I mean, it's getting out of their hands. But if they really, if Dati Ahmed steps up, maybe he can save the Labour Party. Now, talking about APC that you have raised earlier, the chairman saying that, oh, if you're,
so you were a politician at all.
And this actually happened when we were in the villa. They said that you have to, in fact, at the point they were removing part of our salary, to be paying the party. They said party dues or something. We didn't have a choice, to say that, no, you can't do that.
Party dues?
Yeah, of course.
Even though you're not a car-carrying member of the party?
They said that we have to be, because you've been appointed, you have
by
to
the party.
But yeah, so I think it stopped later, but there was a time when they were deducting some of a part of our salary to go into the party. The error in that is that it suggests to you that we still have a strong party system, and people think that, okay, maybe that is how to make the party strong. No, it's the wrong way, and Netanyahu is completely off the curve. First of all, the most important politician in Nigeria today, besides the president, is Nyesom Wike, who is not a member of your party, who is causing the real problem in the country, who also seems to be doing some good job in Abuja, to be fair to him. So you coming out as party chairman and say that, oh, well, starting from 2027, with due respect to the chairman, it's not making sense at all. You cannot have a democracy where the president or the governor is going to be constrained to only putting party members as his government. No, it's not done anywhere.
No, he's not saying they're putting party members. It's just that the moment you're appointed, you should see yourself as a party man.
You shouldn't. But
this paper says no appointment for non-APC members.
Yeah. The point is that is not how to build the party back. No, it's not. First of all, people like Netanyahu, what gravitas does Netanyahu have to become a party chairman? What gravitas? Short of the fact that the president felt that guy I'm going to use. That is not how political leaders emerge. We're talking about people like Solomon Lai in 1999. We're talking about people like Akinloye in 1979. Those are the kind of people who even the president of the country we have to listen to. Aldo Obi has told us that when they were doing fake meetings under MPN in 1993, when Akinloye calls, Shagari stops the fake meeting to go and pick his call. Because the political parties were strong. They had ideologies. When you talk about UPN, you can talk about the 4 cardinal rules: free education, free health, infrastructure, and I think agriculture. Everybody knew those 4 cardinal points. What do we know APC for? What do we know PDP for? Nothing. Even APC was trying to say, okay, look, we will be the one to be progressive. We want to take care of people, so they came up with this social investment program. Bam, second time president says, give it to this woman who knows next to nothing. Crumbush and crush the program. The program is destroyed today. So we don't have political parties in the real sense of it. So in the time we're talking about this, it's just missing the point. That's not the issue at all. The issue is we need to go back to the fundamentals where the party is stronger than its members.
And besides, even if they're appoint people and you say they're not technocrats, they're politicians, they're not partisan politicians. You can still be there and not be a partisan politician. But at the end of the day, just as you highlighted, the country belongs to everybody. So if it's a democracy, experts, no professional will come and beg you to appoint them. No,
exactly.
They're busy achieving things, changing the world.
Yeah.
So they won't.
Somebody says, I define who I am.
Oh yeah, that's the way it is.
It can't be said better.
Yeah, look at the example you gave. when the votes that Peter Obi got within a short time frame.
Yeah.
It means if young people come together in this country and say, you know what, this is what we want, they can change what's going on in this country. So they need to do that.
We have people who can change what is happening in this country. When are we going to start?
All right, Lala Conde, thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you all next time. What am I thinking? It's Friday already. Okay.
It's Thursday, Chamberlain.
It's all yet.
Reality check.
Okay. One more day to go this week, and then it will be... it's already an interesting week, I tell you. So we'll see you tomorrow then. I'm Chamberlain, so goodbye.
Indeed, don't forget, you define who you are. Thank you for watching. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf. Bye-bye.